Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the first proper video of Secret Japan. I've brought you over here to my little storytelling corner, the nice little cozy bit of my house, because I just wanted to yap a bit about food in Japan. Because I think online there's this big thing that you can walk into any restaurant you want in Japan and you'll have the most legendary food you can ever imagine. No matter the country where it's from, you could have the best burger, the best pasta, the best sushi. But after you live here a while, you find out that isn't necessarily true. You can still get some really shocking restaurants, so I just wanted to talk a bit about one, how you can avoid those restaurants, and two, if you find yourself in the unfortunate position of being in one of those restaurants, how you can sort of make the most of it anyway. So, let's get into the very first thing. This will be before you even have decided on what restaurant you go to. Because I'm willing to put some money on that if you go to Japan, you don't really know where to go. You'll just open up phone, have a search, and just see what's the highest rated places around your area. And that's trap number one. So, a lot of restaurants, and I'll get into it a bit more later, will have a system that sort of rewards you after your meal for a 5-star rating to sort of buff their own rating up. So a lot of the restaurants that do that on average are kind of on the crappier side. So in Japan, the miracle is they actually use the star rating system in an appropriate way. So generally a really good restaurant you'll have will be around like 3 to 4 stars. Anything above 4.5 and over like 200 reviews, bar something extremely popular, especially among foreigners, is kinda suspicious. So I'd stay away from it if I were you, because that's sort of a sign that they're sort of bribing you after your meal. They're saying, hey, how's about I'll give you a free ice cream if you just leave that 5-star review. And they will check, so it is hard to cheat the system, and especially after you've been drinking for an hour and a half, it's pretty easy to fall into the trap. So that's number one. If something has a really high review, maybe don't trust it too much. So, the second thing. Also, sorry, I've just taken away that black thing over there. Shh. No one ever noticed it. But, so the second thing, and this one I don't think you'll have too much trouble with, is if you actually decide to call into a restaurant, if it's a busy day or something, and you want to make sure that there's space for you. Obviously, this only really applies for you if you speak a bit of Japanese. But if they hang up on you, oh fucking boy, get out of there as soon as you fucking can. Because, as it always goes, the Japanese are very polite when it comes to customer service. So if they're doing something that can be perceived as rude, like hanging up on a customer, that is such a red flag and you should run away from that restaurant as fast as possible. Usually, what hanging up on you means in like Japanese business speak is it's even more dispolite to say to a customer, oh, we have room for you, but we're still really busy, so we don't really want you to come. That's what they're trying to tell you by hanging up, but if they actively don't want more people in their restaurant, you have to start to wonder what the, work ethic is behind the counter, and it's another signal that you might not get the best food there. Okay, so there's just one last thing that can really tip you off that a restaurant maybe isn't the best thing ever. And that is if there's someone outside, if you're just wandering around and trying to pull you in, especially if they look at foreigners and try to get them in. That's kind of a bit suspicious, because some places that try and do that will try to steal your wallet if you get a bit too drunk, and they might put a little something in your drink, so obviously you want to avoid that as much as possible. So the best places will basically never have someone outside telling you, oh, come in, come in, come in. That's really suspicious, and, even finding a Japanese person that's willing to do that job is really hard in Japan. So even just that person being present is kind of sus. So again, if someone is trying to like grab you, get you into the bar, that's pretty suspicious. And like the police here are not great at dealing it with anything if something really bad happens. So yeah, that's obviously the main thing. It's very, very rare, I should say. But yeah, if someone is like calling you and really trying to get you into the bar, the more they try, the more suspicious it is. So that's the last thing I wanted to speak about. You're like 3 major things of before you even get into a restaurant, knowing if it's kind of suspicious or not. 1, super high Google star reviews, because they're probably just bribing people after their food. Number 2 is if they hang up on you if you call them, because that means they don't want people in the restaurant. They'd rather have like as few people as possible so they can just cruise through to a paycheck. And number 3, if there's someone who's really trying hard to get you into the restaurant, you definitely want to avoid it. So those are my 3 things I really recommend you look out for if you're trying to avoid any chance of a bad restaurant in Japan. So the most common type of bad restaurant you'll get here in Japan are called isekais. Now, obviously, not all of them are bad. In fact, a lot of them are really good and great places just like chat. They're basically half bar, half restaurant, and they're a lot of fun. But there is also a chance that some of them are pretty crappy. And the number one thing that you can notice is if your isekai is bad or not, is if it stinks of smoke. Because a lot of isekais will like not really care if someone smokes or not. And so you'll work into a lot of them and there'll be, a smell of smoke. But that normal smell of smoke isn't really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like really bad smell. Like people have been smoking here for days and days and days in a row, and just the staff hasn't really cleaned anything. Because that is how you know like the entire place is pretty nasty. But you open the door, you smell it, you go, uh-oh, but you're still getting led to your table. It's too late. You've passed the gates of hell, you've abandoned all hope. So you get sat down and you'll have some choices. So either you can do the sensible thing and you can just order as little as you're comfortable ordering and then just get out. Or if you do actually order a decent amount and you still want to eat, they'll often have a option of tabe hodai and nomi hodai. So each of them are all you can eat and all you can drink options. And they'll usually have a 2-hour or 1.5 hour option where you can just flag down the staff and they'll bring you whatever drink that's on like the selection of what you can order. And the most common thing that shady restaurants love to do when you do tabe or nomi hodai is they like to avoid your table like the plague. So, because you can only order a drink if a server comes to take your order, if you decide to get a nomi hodai, what they'll do is all of the servers will basically try and avoid your table as much as possible, so it's as hard as possible for you to actually get your money's worth out of the nomi hodai. So, the advice to dealing with that, to dealing with kind of getting ignored, is very un-Japanese, so that's why it's good to have the gaijin smash approach, that whenever any server is anywhere even close to your table, you really have to work to cool them down, but you will get their attention and they will come to get you eventually just to shut you up. And at that point, you can get your drinks and you can get any food you want, and make sure to order as much as they'll let you when they come around, because it might be a while before you can get their attention again. Some places will only have a 1 drink per person thing that you have to finish your first drink before you can order another. But if that's the case, you can still try and push it as much as you can to try and make the most of the situation you're in. And you'll also notice afterwards, after all of your food is done, after all of your drinks are done, if you've kept track of the time, you're like, okay, my hour and a half or 2 hours is almost up. Around that time, your server will come up to your table and you'll figure out why they have the good Google review, because they'll say, oh, if you give us a 5-star review and you've showed us that you've posted it, no trying to get out of the restaurant reviewing, then we'll give you something like a free ice cream or you'll get a free drink. So yeah, especially after you've been drinking Nomi Hodai as much as you want for 2 hours, it's definitely easy to fall into that trap and sort of perpetuate the cycle over and over again. But here's the trick. If you really, really, really hated the restaurant, you can post the review, you can show them like, oh, look, I've showed it. You can get your free wine or whatever. You can get a free scoop of ice cream. Then as soon as you leave the restaurant, delete it. Like, they don't continuously check for like the next 10 minutes if you haven't deleted it and like send thugs after you to beat you up. But, as soon as you're out of the door, just delete the review, and then hopefully it makes it a bit easier for other people to notice that the actual restaurant isn't very good, and that helps the rating come back down to what it actually should be. And so, that is my quick little guide to how you can properly navigate around restaurants in Japan, because I know from personal experience it's so easy to just like open Google, type in restaurant, and find the highest rated ones, but that's exactly why they ask you for the 5-star reviews, so they appear higher and higher on that list. So if you just keep my tips in mind to just be a bit questioning if something has over like 4.5 stars, if they hang up on you, and also if like you go to that restaurant and then someone is really trying to get you in, first of all, probably avoid that restaurant, maybe go to something a bit closer, have a bit of a wander around, and then if you do end up in the restaurant, make sure you're not afraid to like make yourself heard. It might feel embarrassing at first, but after you get a few drinks in you, after you're starting to eat your fill, like, you'll want your servers to come. So it's really important that you still like make some noise, make yourself known, to make sure that you at least get the best out of the situation you found yourself in. And then if you have decided to leave a review for any like free thing that they offer you, just make sure you delete it after you get out of the building, and you just get a free thing for basically nothing. And then just remember to never ever go there again. So I hope you enjoyed out this little guide on how to get some really good food in Japan, or well, how to avoid the bad food, I should say. So this has been Secret Japan, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope to see you next time, and goodbye.